In the spirit of reconciliation, I would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. While we meet today on a virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands which we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their culture. From coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home. They were the original occupants of this land and continue to be here today. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in Canada, and welcome to this very important Namat Canada program entitled, What Color is Your Parachute? A personalized guide to dealing with anti-Semitism. My name is Doris Wexler-Charo, and I'm the immediate past president of Namat Canada. As most of you know, Namat is a worldwide women's organization that helps women and their families in Israel escape violence and abuse. We have a women's shelter outside Tel Aviv and a variety of legal services. We also have over 120 daycare centers so women can go to work feeling that their children are safely taken care of. In addition, we run a variety of high schools and middle schools for children who are struggling in the regular school system. In Canada, we fundraise for our projects in Israel, and we get involved in our local communities by helping women's shelters in our cities, and we educate our members about women's issues and other important matters, such as the program here today. I just want to take a few minutes to update you a little about what has been going on across our country and let you know about a few things to look forward to. We just had a national board meeting last weekend, so there are a lot of exciting things happening throughout our country. The biggest being our national convention, which is scheduled for October 13th to 15th, 2023. Details will be shared in the next few weeks as the results from our survey are tabulated. Besides being Black Friday on November 25th, we acknowledge the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, which was established by the United Nations in 1993. And Namat Israel has a lot of programs planned that they will share with us. Happy Hanukkah in advance, and please don't forget about our Dollars for David campaign while you celebrate with your own families. Helping those in need at this time of year is really meaningful and much appreciated by the thousands of children in our daycare center. Without further ado, along with our national president, Dr. Sandy Siegel, and our vice president, Susan Inhaber, I would like to welcome our guest speakers. As a fellow social worker, I reached out to Annette over the summer, and she kindly agreed to speak with us today. She also asked her colleagues to join her on this very important subject. Anti-Semitism worldwide is at its worst numbers since World War II. What can we as individuals do about it? Let's find out. Annette Poisner is a social worker, educator, psychotherapist, graphologist, author, and activist with expertise in the psychology of personality and the psychology of change. She has spent the better part of 40 years facilitating Jewish education and activism, sometimes under the guise of doing psychotherapy. And she brings fresh angles to the table in these troubling times. Her personality type is the change agent, power, innovation. So fasten your seatbelts. Andrea Spindle is a social worker and also has her LLB honoris causa. She is the former president and CEO of March of Dimes Canada, overseeing a staff of 2,000. And she is now the current president of Kulanu Canada and the current executive director of the Canadian Anti-Semitism Education Foundation. She brings expertise and commitment to the fight against anti-Semitism, wielding her personality type, the editor-in-chief, alert and prestige. Stacy Love is a massage practitioner and social work volunteer in the Canadian Antisemitism Education Foundation. She is the head interviewer on the Hineni Research Project. Stacy's personality type is known in the fascination system as the beloved, passion, trust. After their presentation, they will be happy to take questions. Please type your questions in the chat. Thank you. And here's Annette to start.
Wonderful. I'm getting into our PowerPoint. We're really excited to be doing this with you today. And, if we were just here to talk about the depressing anti-Semitism numbers, which we all know about, we would be less excited because we all know what's going on campus. And we know about the anti-Zionism that is coming up literally every corner that you look, every nook and cranny has more of it. But we're here to talk about innovation and novel ways of responding to anti-Semitism, and at the same time as bringing forth your best strengths and assets and personality type so that your unique contribution really fits and is exactly what the Jewish people need from you. You may remember the book, What Color is Your Parachute? And that was from back in the 80s. And the concept was that you have your parachute is going to be your unique color, which is your unique personality trait. That was like novel back then, that each person's personality would dictate what vocation they might choose for themselves. Well, here we can draw on that because the Jewish people need a parachute, and we all got one, and we all have our unique coloration of who we are. And so that's how we want to step forward to talk about how we can each, with our best assets, bring forth what is needed and how we can do it in a really interesting and novel way. So, for example, Barbra Streisand has been tweeting recently about an important tweet about anti-Semitism. But beyond that, obviously, she looked in the mirror and she said, what can I do given terrible anti-Semitism? And what she came up with is that she was going to produce a docudrama based on the life story of Golda Meir. But each of us have our unique station, contacts, talents. So the question becomes, what can I do? What can you do? And that's where we are stepping into a system that Sally Hogshead developed. And in fact, if you know anything about Kabbalah, you would recognize that this system has, at the top bar, you have 7 attributes, and along the sidebar, you have 7 attributes, same 7 attributes. So she's effectively saying that there are 49 different personality types because, you can have one that's primary and one that's secondary. But if you learn Jewish mysticism, you go like, oh my gosh, that's actually a Jewish system. These are the Sfirot, the divine attributes from the tree of life. And it's a brilliant system and it works. So in advance, I think you got a link if you wanted to take the test, and from a Forbes magazine link, if you were curious what your type was. But we're going to be using this system as an anchor. It talks, you're reading here personality archetypes, but I'd rather call them personality types. And we're not going to go into the 49. We're going to go into there's 7 dominant advantages, she calls them, overarching. Now, I happen to be, one of mine is power. Well, we're not going to talk about power because power goes right into leadership mode. And so they know what they're going to do, and they're going to tell you what to do. So we don't need to talk so much about what the power person can do. But we've got 6 different types. And it just so happens in our little team, Andrea, Stacy, and I, we represent 2, 2, and 2. And so that gives us a way of embodying these types, explaining them. And then you have a guide. Oh, if I'm like this, here's some of the projects I could undertake. Okay, so that was our concept. Now, my lead type is called innovation. So who are the innovators? They are proponents of the new. They propose unexpected solutions. They're entrepreneurial. They encourage new products and fresh ideas. We're the idea people. So we need, if you're one of the innovation types, you're an idea person, we need your ideas. And creative, out of the box, you send us an email, there's other Jewish organizations working on anti-Semitism. Someone's going to have a genius idea. Gosh, so the ideas are worth their weight in gold. Now let's look at some innovations just to sort of prime the pump. So you probably saw these posters because they were in Toronto, they were in New York, Stand With Us and Jew Belong. And you know, really fresh, punchy. There were many of them, but this one, we're just 75 years since the gas chambers. So no, a billboard calling out bigotry against Jews isn't an overreaction. So very fresh, very, you know, like as opposed to just droopy and, you know, complaining. So I thought that was a fabulous program. Whereas another interesting idea came from Hasbro Fellowships. This was at the Ontario College of Art and Design. Beyond the usual political discourse and that is so difficult for the Jewish students and the narrative that is so dominant. So what they did is they printed up these stickers, peace and prosperity for Israelis and Palestinians, and it gave them something. There's a lot of graffiti at that school, and the students were empowered. You know, give them something to do, give them something. We have to dilate the narrative, we have to expand and change the narrative. And so we want fresh ways of doing it. And I thought this was a pretty good idea. Now, what about, we have someone in the community in Toronto, Aaron Weiss, and he got this idea that he was going to do a comic book. This is a volunteer thing. Right now, if you went to his website, you could do a free download and get his 4-page comic book for kids, which is effectively explaining all the reasons why we are not colonists for having the state of Israel. And it's a wonderful thing. He got a graphic designer involved. And, you know, we have to use interesting modalities, right? What about, you may be familiar because this was happening out of Ontario, some high school students got interested in the idea of creating a Holocaust display. So they effectively made a kind of a cattle car, and it travels around to schools, and it's a Holocaust display, and it's a working display. And again, this was done by volunteers. Now, I'll show you something that we did in the context of our current campaign. So I like to fool around. There is wonderful animation software, not expensive. Like, you know, for example, we have on November 25, Thanksgiving Day sales. Everything goes off a third, 40% off, whatever. I always buy these things when they're on sale. So maybe I paid $120 for a 1-year subscription to this animation software. So I had to thinking, how am I going to make the point that in social work, they teach every other form of oppression, but they omit anything about anti-Semitism. So this is 30 seconds. Now, this was done with this very simple software. It took me 5 minutes to put that together. And there's any number of programs. You can do all sorts of things. Over time, I've done probably about 20 animations about different things. A lot of fun. You're an innovator. You like creative ways. Sure, we need more animation, stuff we can throw onto social media. And in a New York minute, explain a quick idea and get our message across and get our narrative on the map, eh? Okay, now I'm going to talk about a different type, which is in our model. It's called Mystique. Okay, and this happens to be another attribute of mine. Intellectual orientation, which allows people to see the nuances of a situation, to analyze, to present facts and ideas, gather evidence, reflect, and present. Often introverts have this particular strength. So let's say some of you are more academically inclined, and this is a lead trait. So you're kind of going, okay, how can I participate in the fight? Well, there's a website called Quora. And this website is where people go if they have a question or if they want to participate as an expert. You go in there, you can ask a question, and then all sorts of people will answer the question. People upvote or downvote the answers to questions. And of course, you know, the anti-Semitic ones could fly to the top depending on who's doing that. So we need people. Let's say you're a history buff, you've got all the facts about Israel at the back of your hand. Sure, go on to Quora. You'll find the related questions about the Middle East. You can answer questions. You can downvote the anti-Semitic ones. You can upvote the good, solid answers, right? We need the intellects amongst us to participate. This very busy site, okay? So very famous, very busy, and that's a wonderful application of this gift. So Hasbro Fellowships did something interesting. They have produced posters where they're giving information, because the narrative is everybody hates Israel and Israel's terrible and whatever. And so what they put together is they are showing relationships between Israel and different countries. They're creating these posters in languages. I'm not showing you all of them. See, we got Russian, we got English, and we're showing the connection between Israel and these different countries. And Hasbro Fellowships makes this available to students that they can post this on campus. That's great. That's great use of you know, knowledge and bringing facts to the table and presenting it in a way that helps extend and expand the usual narrative. Now, this is a project I did over the course of 11 years. When I was in my doctoral program, I decided that it troubled me that all the Jewish therapists were rushing off to learn from Buddhism, because my feeling is that Judaism has rich resources when it has to do with healing arts, medicine. So over the course of 11 years, I organized this completely as a volunteer, 41 programs in conjunction with different synagogues and different agencies. You go, Mount Sinai Hospital, whatever. I've just grabbed 4 programs to show you. And again, what we're doing here is if the narrative is all these negative things about Israel, how about a new narrative? Wow, we in Judaism have wonderful, interesting, we have our own mystical tradition, we have insights about healing, and we're extending the narrative. We're taking people to a very different way of thinking about the Jewish people than what's being presented in the media. And these were very popular. And I didn't really spend money on it, right? We just, organizations came in as co-sponsors, and people came. We always had 30, 40 people. So if you have an area that you know about, maybe having to do with Jewish religion or Bible or you know, Jewish history, maybe you can bring your knowledge forward and find a venue. And again, everybody, we've got to extend the narrative. So, and now I'm going to pass you over to our friend Stacy Love, who's going to present some additional personality attributes and ideas.
Hi, thank you. I was enjoying that. Good. Hi, I'm Stacy Love. I'm a former intern of the Canadian Antisemitism Education Foundation, where I've been involved in some truly meaningful and rewarding work. Now that my school placement is complete, I feel honored to continue this mission while injecting my primary personality attributes from the Sally Hogshead model Annette spoke of earlier. First and foremost, in this system, my type would be called passion. Passion types are people who value relationships and love to bring people together and build networks. They have strong interpersonal skills and are very warm and animated. My type is expressive and communicative and very attuned to others. My other attribute is called trust. The trust personality is dependable, committed, and likes to develop a solid plan of action. I'm often asking, what are we going to do next? Or what needs to happen? This type of person acts in predictable ways and likes to be a team player, working alongside others, of course. So I've been quite enjoying working alongside Andrea and Annette, having them lead the way. If your dominant attributes are passion and or trust, then you are someone who's deeply humanitarian and most likely compelled by human interest stories. Perhaps when you open the newspaper, you quickly reach for the life section. So you might be wondering, how can I just participate in the fight of anti-Semitism, given these interests and talents? For me, the answer has been to pursue a career as a social service worker. And in our courses, we're encouraged to step forward and share our personal experiences and struggles. Those who hate us are also sharing narratives, and these, of course, are the narratives we read in media and on social media. Jews, therefore, have to bring in their narratives. We have to do this relative to the Middle East conflict, but in other ways as well. To show what our type can do, I can explain what I've been doing in this project. We've been bringing forward the narratives of Jewish social work students and giving them a platform to share their experiences. This has given them a way to bring forward the anti-Semitism confronting many students. They are sharing their lived experience while maintaining anonymity. I've been functioning with their as an interviewer doing qualitative research, and these students are sharing troubling reports, situations which prior to this were taboo to discuss. Students feared ramifications, professional or academic or otherwise. So what are the students telling us? In general, it's quite a bit of fear involved in their stories, some are anti-Zionist and anti-Semitic, pressures to parrot teachers' ideology, even when that ideology runs counter to classic Jewish values. There's an ongoing omission of the study of anti-Semitism in the social work curriculum, and where every form of oppression is highlighted in that curriculum. And we're hearing even more. Annette and I drafted the findings into an article format, and that article is being published in the Journal of Contemporary Anti-Semitism, and it will be out in a few weeks. People of our temperament are ideally suited to do interviews and write down narratives and share experiences. We need to bring the personal story forward. For example, we must discuss the circumstances faced by Israelis who live in fear of terror. In the media or in social work school or in the culture at large, our narratives need to be shared. Since people of our temperament tend to be good writers and we have a heart for the personal experience of others, we can be catalysts. In our project, it's been a privilege to document firsthand accounts from the students. I'm happy to report that because we were circulating petitions about omissions in the social work curriculum, and because we were doing this research, we have an outcome. The Ontario Association of Social Work is now presenting workshops. So far, they have developed 7 hours of training to orient social workers and social service workers to the problem of anti-Semitism. All this has been achieved because we have been writing up the narratives of Jewish students, accumulating stories, and sharing them as a form of advocacy. I'll give you one more example of the importance of expanding the current narrative and bringing other voices to the fore. Annette has been interviewing Muslims who have an interest in Western psychology and who have been reporting having been helped by the work of Canadian psychologist Jordan Peterson. She has interviewed various Peterson fans, giving them anonymity and a voice so they can talk about how they have benefited from Western psychology and ways they wish to share the ideas with their co-religionists. One way to use the narrative format here that is currently au courant is to bring forward the voices of moderate Muslims who would like to counter the influence of radicals. When we have stories to tell, we can share them on social media. We can publish them via medium.com, a blog website, and share them through other venues. Finally, I'll just point to the website canva.com, which can be used for graphic design, a staple for any student. Types like us could design children's stories, posters, books, and other resources. There are wonderful ways that we can take what we come up with and publish, bringing these stories forward. That's something my personality type is equipped to do and excited to work on. Thank you. So now I'll hand you over to Andrea.
I just mentioned that I'm watching a snowstorm just erupted as we're starting here. So I'm Andrea Spindle, the Executive Director of the Canadian Antisemitism Foundation, and I'm the avatar of 2 personality advantages or strengths, known through the Sally Hogshead system as prestige and alert. The prestige personality type is oriented towards excellence. They tend to every detail, have expertise and assertiveness, and are meticulous in attaining high quality results. This personality type tends towards project management. And my own work history involves having been the president and CEO of March of Dimes Canada for almost 40 years. And that meant running a very highly complex organization with almost 2,000 employees. My other personality characteristic or influence, according to this model, is called alert. People with this personality type have an ability to manage complex projects because they excel at tracking and managing details. They take a step-by-step approach to reaching goals. If some of you share my attributes, then you probably are ensconced in the corporate world or working within a large organization, maybe involved in management, administration, or other functions. You know your way around large and/or complex organizations. How then might you be helpful and apply your skills and personality traits in our current war against anti-Semitism? Well, like me, you might already have retired or be retiring from the corporate world, so you might consider stepping into a leadership role in a Jewish nonprofit organization as either paid or contract staff or as a volunteer. Bring your knowledge and skills to the Jewish community, which would be both beneficial to the organization and provide you with satisfaction. You can find meaningful roles as an advocate, manager, educator, organizer, and/or team builder. There's lots that needs to be done, and our personality type is a great asset. You're also welcome to make contact with me directly if you'd like to get involved with CAEF and tackle projects related to anti-Semitism. But if you're still very much in the workforce, you can also be very helpful in our battle, because you may find there are volunteer positions within your organization that need your traits and that allow you to contribute in addressing issues that affect the Jewish people. Volunteer roles in business include serving on boards and task forces. In no time at all, we've found the enemies of the Jewish people do sign up for these positions, and they use these community structures to lobby for BDS or to have the organization pass an anti-Israel resolution. So we need people on the inside on boards and task forces to push back and represent our community's best interests. As another specific example, many medium-sized and large corporations also have departments of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is a very popular concept these days. We suggest that you book an appointment with the head of the department or committee of DEI and show them this image, which was displayed on the back page of the Metropolitan Toronto University Alumni Magazine just a few months ago. Note that the university and the TD Bank, which are sponsors of this, applaud all their that university's respective efforts to fight the various forms of oppression, but they managed to omit any recognition of anti-Semitism or show any effort to be fighting it. The reason anti-Semitism is omitted from the ad is because the study of anti-Semitism has actually been excluded from training programs offered by these departments pretty much across the board. We found no examples of DEI professionals or departments recognizing that Jews are the most discriminated group in the country, and yet that is a documented fact. We need you to meet with departments or the recognized DEI manager or consultant and point out that omitting the study of anti-Semitism is not only unacceptable, it is itself anti-Semitic. You can find research shown on the slide here that's cited by the Heritage Foundation that found rampant anti-Semitism expressed in the Twitter feeds of the various DEI professionals. In fact, studies have found that the most anti-Semitic faculty on university campuses were themselves the DEI staff. So fighting racism is in the hands of the racists. The most pronounced Canadian example you may all be familiar with is that of Laith Marouf, an anti-racist consultant who founded an NGO enabling him to receive funds from government and do training across Canada. His social media profile was found to be full of hatred towards most minorities, towards French Canadians, and especially towards Jews. We need your help to bring this matter to the attention of companies and the in-house DEI departments and to challenge their thinking and their training if it fails to properly address anti-Semitism. and if it focuses only on race and racial characteristics. Finally, while we're talking about things that we can all do, I'd like to bring your attention to the petition that was mentioned earlier that would be greatly benefited by your own signatures. We've mentioned that social work educators are not including the study of anti-Semitism in their courses, and this needs to be rectified, especially given the skyrocketing instances of violence against Jews. In the chat, you'll find a link to our petition, so please sign it. We've already got about 1,000 signatures, but we need more, and we need more support from the Jewish community to bring higher profile to this study. We plan to bring the petition to the attention of all social work organizations, both professional associations and registration bodies in Canada. Secondly, in the chat, you'll find a link to an article that was published in the Times of Israel, which explains the social work education problem. And we ask that you share that article, which has the link to our petition. Share it on social media, send it to your friends, family members, and colleagues, and ask for their support and signatures. Thirdly, our research project we call Hanani is groundbreaking. As was explained, we are getting buy-in from the social work profession, which fears that next we'll go to the media. But we're still looking for candidates, students, to tell their stories. We're asking each of you, if you know any social workers or social work students, to tell them about the study, encourage their participation. We guarantee anonymity of the students or former students, and even won't mention the name of their university or college. We're asking you to reach out and let them know about our study. We'd speak to them and help them express their concern, as was explained by Stacy so well. It's done very anonymously and very sensitively, and we can help any of them really tell their story, and I know many want to. So anyone that's graduated within the last 7 years or is currently a student and would share their story in an interview, telling about social work education, their experience from a Jewish perspective. Right now, the majority of our respondents are in Ontario. So since this is a national problem, we really need your help. There's much more information about this project on our website, that is the Canadian Antisemitism Education Foundation, and the website is www.caef.ca. So please go there and read about the study. And if you want more information or comments, you can also send a message to Annette directly. I think she's posted her email. And finally, we'd be happy to expand our network. So if you know of educators who would like to partner in working on problems such as we're confronting, whether they're already employed in human resources or doing advocacy or some other, coming at it from some other perspective, we'd be happy to partner and to do projects that look at how else we can be effective, how we identify and be effective in dealing with anti-Semitism.